The shootout we were all anticipating, but are we really waiting for something bigger? Grasso is now faced with all the consequences of his actions. We really find out what Robbie's master plan is. All of this and more on the next episode of Unbinged, starting now. Welcome to the Unbinged podcast, where we break down the shows and movies that you love to binge. I am Sam Holt, joined as always by Jagger May and Matt Kaufhammer to discuss Task. Before we get too into all of the juicy details of episode 6, let's have that spoiler warning.
This is your one warning that we're about to spoil all 6 episodes of the show Task. Fun fact, a lot of people die.
And that is your official spoiler warning. Everybody dies. No, that's not true, but we do have several deaths that we have to talk about. Guys, this was an action-packed episode, but really we got all the action right at the very beginning before they even rolled the opening credits. Quite crazy. The big showdown and Robbie's death. Koff, I want to kick this to you talking about that. Did Robbie get the death that he deserved to lead this one off?
I think he got the death he thinks he deserves, right? Like he was able to set up his family with the money, or at least he thought he did. You know, trusting a crackhead with the rest of your plan is a choice for sure. But I think he went out the way he thought he was supposed to. Yeah. So you could tell, especially in his last moments, as he's fading away and he's thinking about, and we get that little shot of him in the quarry, you know, the sun is shining again. Like he went out at peace. So even if he didn't deserve to get stabbed in the guts by the same guy that killed his brother, I don't know. I think there's, you know, obviously some poetic irony there. But really, I think he went out at peace. And I think that's all that really mattered to Robbie at that point.
Yeah, I was a little bit frustrated with that, but Jagger, for you, what about his death? I mean, the fight, the way it was escalating, I think they did a beautiful job choreographing the choreography on this, with it escalating, going to the cabin. He had to save Tom again. I mean, can this guy save himself, Jag?
The episode ended and the plan, I think he expected to die. I just think he wanted to get that. He wanted to take Jason with him. So it wasn't a flawless victory from his mentality, but I'll give him like an 80%. Like that's still like within like a passing grade of what he did. I still think he went out like a bitch, not calling him a bitch. Jason did a bitch move with like, I'm gonna knife you. And it's like as soon as I saw him having like the weird face, I'm like, that son of a bitch. He had like, he slipped a knife somewhere. And I think that he at least died with peace in his heart, thinking that he did the right thing. You know, it's like, I got my family set up. I saved Tom, because I think that actually mattered to him. Like you said, like Tom's a decent man. And I know this is weird. Robbie's a decent man. Like, he's a stupid man who makes a lot of mistakes and does crime, but he is a good man. And he's like, there's no way this preacher turned FBI guy, I'm going to let him die because of me and cause more fallout. I'm going to clean up my mess. So I respect Robbie for trying to clean up his mess. Like, he tried, man, and he did his best. So.
Yeah, I definitely feel like he had that moment where,
and I love that
when Tom yells at him, he's like he was saying, like, what are you doing here? He had intended to save him. He didn't want to bring him into this. And I think, to your point, he definitely did want to have everything go down and bring Jason down with him and bring as many dark hearts down with him as he could. Koff, how do you feel about it?
Oh, for sure. And I love, Jag, that you mentioned that they're both decent men at the end of the day, because they recognize that in each other. And that's what connected them to one another. And I think that's not only why Robbie was, you know, saving Tom's life, but also why Tom then tried his hardest to get Robbie to the hospital as soon as he could to try to save his life. Not because he owed him anything, but because he recognized, yes, this is a flawed man. He's made many mistakes along the way, but at the end of the day, he's trying to do what's right for his family, and he's trying to make the decent choice. And while he goes about it the wrong way, can you really blame someone who has been put in a position where they lose someone like their brother, they were unmoored, and they go down this darker path of revenge, only for it to ultimately cultivate in their own death? So you could see the melancholy on Tom's face as Robbie's fading away, and he recognizes, like, you know, I can't save this one. And how many times in Tom's past has he had to be in that exact moment where, especially after a tragedy or after a crisis event where he is trying to give last rites to people who are dying? Like, that must have been such a hard scene for Tom Brandis to have to replay in a very real way in front of him.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a hard moment, I think, between both characters. I think that we've had so much building up in this entire season to these two characters. Last episode they finally met. This episode they have another meeting where it's like, I don't know, I always want these shows to kind of not leave anything on the table when they're setting everything up to be so big, and I feel like this episode did a really good job of this, tying up the loose end of Robbie and Tom and what they kind of both mean to each other, that you said, Koff, in terms of, knowing that Robbie recognizes that Tom is a decent man, even when Tom at this moment probably doesn't see that in himself, that he's a decent man. So I think that it's this really powerful moment of meeting, of recognition between both of these characters in this scuffle and all of these things. And I think that Tom also recognizes and starts to be able to believe in himself again as he's trying to save Robbie. And even though he's not able to, he's able to find ways to save him going forward. I want to get into this next part before we jump into so many more things. Obviously, we had one of the members of Task go. We kind of took bets who we thought was going to be the first one of this group to die, and did end up being Lizie. And we really see this horrible graphic death that both Aaliyah and Grasso witness. And I really feel like it's going to be Grasso's undoing as we're set up to go into the finale. Jag, what did you think in that moment when they were both all screaming? Lizie couldn't hear because she had the gun go off next to her ear, so it blew out her eardrum. What were your thoughts as this crazy death ended up happening in front of us?
It was, for me, as soon as she started freezing up, like we said, it wasn't intentional in the house, obviously, at this point. As soon as she started freezing up, I'm just like, oh no. Because there's just no way we could watch that situation and expect everyone to make it out. We knew Aaliyah was fine. She was fucking John Wick going through there, like tearing through a
Took the
whole
high ground so she could get the main shot. Oh my god! I
Yeah.
mean, as soon as I was like, she's gone, I'm like, she went to the high ground, and of course she did.
She's total badass. Like, she's fine. Grasso,
Yeah.
we know he's playing both sides, so he's gonna make it out. It's just the whole time I'm like, oh no, I just hope it's clean, and I didn't get that even. Like, I literally was like, I hope it's fucking clean. And really, what I took from it is we hear that Grasso's done this before, with the task force. This is routine for him. I don't know how much he gets paid by the job or anything like that, but I don't know if he's ever faced consequences this near and dear to home, where I'm sure he went in with like a task force before. And, it's like what you do with any normal job where you work with new people. I don't know if you like ever been a contractor, and I don't mean like just for construction, any type of job where you constantly meet new people. It's like, okay, cool. We'll grab drinks at the Marriott bar, and then we'll dip out later. But like, I'm not going to add you on Facebook, bro. But he had a real moment with Lizie, and probably felt something for the future, because he even tried not to sleep with her and be like a piece of shit about it. And then she dies, and he realizes that his mistakes have real effects on the other people. And to say this is going to be his downfall, it's really going to be like an internal downfall, because it sounds like he's got his whole team behind him. And that was I'll say this, good writing on this point, because like, wow, the whole force loves him and respect him. And Sam, you've been saying this. And I guess I didn't think it that far. The entire fucking force is in on it. The entire county police is in on it. And I didn't even think that far. I was thinking more within like our small bubble.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
Wild.
Yeah,
Koff,
that
detail
was
in
the
terms
big
of
revelation.
the connection.
Yeah, that was the big revelation for me, is that the literal from the top down, the entire, at least the leadership is rotten and in the Darkheart's pocket. So getting the revelation that he had a formal complaint in his file about possibly being a rat, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, how they overlook this? Because it's a formal complaint. Like it's one of those almost nothing burgers in somebody's file until they get a situation like this where like, oh, this might actually be a red flag. It's not like he got actually reprimanded for it. Like it was swept under the rug. So that's why he was able to get on this task force. And I wouldn't surprise me if he is the designated, like whenever this PD gets a request for a task force, we send Grasso, because he's the one that knows what's up. He's the one that has the connection with Jason. So especially getting the revelation that it's the literal captain is watching his back for him. I think that also may still point towards Kathleen. I know she got winged this episode, but I think she might still be implicated or somewhat dirty. Because if the entire PD force is dirty, maybe the FBI field agency in that area is also a little dirty. So it wouldn't surprise me if we still get a revelation that Kathleen might be in on it too. But yeah, I think, Jagger, you're right. This may be the first time that consequences of this magnitude have literally shown themselves in Grasso's face, maybe for the first time in his entire life. And yeah, it's gonna be him only staying strong because he has like the entire PD force behind him, keeping him in line. Otherwise, if it was just him, he would have crashed out already. Like he already played that little cat and mouse game with Tom at the end of the episode where they're like verbally going back and forth like, oh, if you had proof, right? So I definitely
You're
see
good,
this
Tom.
blowing
I bet
up
everyone
in his
tells
face
you the
next
secrets.
episode, especially exactly, right? Has anyone confessed to you, Tom? So I want to see Aaliyah be the one that bring down Grasso. I think that would be the most satisfying ending, especially with her getting the bullseye patch at the very end.
Yeah, the bullseye patch was an incredible call out. And again, it just adds to, I think, the depth of what this death is going to do to the entire task force and how everyone's taking it, how Aaliyah's taking it after witnessing it, having, the episode before tried to connect with, Lizie a little bit more. And then seeing that patch, I think, is really what struck it for her. And then with Tom having gone into the situation, into the firefight, knowing he had the potential of someone in his crew, being a rat, and then finding out who he believes it to be and knowing that it cost him one of his agents, I think is going to make it a lot more powerful for him. That back and forth between Tom and Grasso, Jagger, I want your take on that as well, just in terms of how that was set up, because another amazing point in this series where you have 2 points meeting for a confrontation, and it just happens in such a subtle but powerful way. How did that one hit you?
I mean, I love it because it's like we both know, but like you got to prove it. You got to do all the stuff, and I was actually surprised that Tom, have you noticed that he's gotten steadily stronger again as like as like the season progresses, and I think that's natural where we see him at his lowest point, but I expected him to be like kind of devastated. He's like, oh, you fucking lied to me type shit, but he's just like, all right, I'm going to get this motherfucker and I'm going to go and talk to him to his face. That's some balls, going and talking to him to his face. Borderline stupid. It's borderline stupid. Cause like Tom, the first time when he goes in to talk to Perry and them, and I'm like, baby girl, what is he doing? And then him going going to his accuser face to face, it felt, and like, of course, Koff, you'd get this. It felt very, like Ned Stark, where he's just like, I know it was you. It's like, hey, buddy, like maybe have a plan before you go start pointing fingers and shit like that. I respect it though, and it really shows the dynamic shift where we both see Tom become like a stronger person, and now we see Grasso like crushing Yinglings and like and being drunk with all the windows covered, where he's the weak one now, and I think that's a very beautiful moment where it comes to like a cat and mouse thing, to where I thought this last episode was going to be like aftercare for this, where we just see the aftermath. We kind of got that this episode, and we have this own like whodunit kind of Law and Order, and I mean that in a good way, finale. One thing before I kick it back to you, Sam, Koff, you mentioned Kath. I think I'm always going to leave that door open where she could be because like we obviously there's a lot of fucking problems here. I'm down to like 20% that it's her
Hmm.
for the simple fact that now I'm looking
Same.
at the looks, the editing, how they made her look to where I think she's looking at Tom as much as like more like she's not being suspicious as far as
Mm.
acting suspicious, but she's actually suspicious of Tom and the team and looking closely because she hasn't gotten the analytics report. So I'm not. That's where I'm at with Cass.
Interesting. I
I agree with
mean,
that.
I think that's a great take in terms of how you could see them both splitting up, or
Mm.
because I think I left this episode feeling like Kathleen was still involved, but I kind of took a step back. Like I kind of wanted to backpedal a little bit, but I also feel like there's still an opportunity for her to, as she was explaining the narrative to Tom, and like, well, we did do a deeper dive and we found this about Grasso. I kind of was watching her almost like take the problem and package it up into a box to
Like a
move it
neat
of
belt.
like,
Mm.
and this is now, it's not my issue, this is the issue with Grasso, and just kind of immediately package it up nicely to pass the blame along. Cough, did you feel the same way?
For sure. And then there's also the fact that she got winged this episode, which conveniently she was in and out of surgery pretty quick and she was recovered and back home the next day. So there's that one moment of me like, oh, she got hurt, like she got hurt in the line of duty, she's clean. But then I started to think about it more. I'm like, if you were dirty, wouldn't you want to be injured in the line of duty so that way you could shift suspicion away from you? So, and why was she out in the field anyway? Like, if she is the top brass, why is she in the field? So it just there's a couple of things where
Hmm.
I'm like, there's still a possibility that she is still dirty and she's trying to, like you said, do a cleanup job to get suspicion away from her. But I don't know. Maybe it's just the way that they're playing with it to try to keep us on our toes. The showrunners have done a
Yeah.
really
It's
great job of keeping us guessing. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out she's got some dirt on her, but it also would be like, okay, she's just a, if they go the other way and it's just like, well, she's just a gruff captain that you got to get used to, right? Um, I don't know. I don't know which way they're gonna go with it. Potentially, with the reveal that the entire Delcopedia is dirty, it would be less of a surprise if Kathleen was still dirty or also dirty.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
Sam. I don't like you've watched Mayor of Easttown. This
Hmm.
makes me go all the way back to like Homeboy. Evan Peters' character was with Delco, and I'm like, was he dirty back
Mm.
then? I just the thought came to my mind as like he's from county and he came
Oh
down to
shit.
help mayor, and like they're not obviously directly involved, but like they're the same kind of universe. It just made me
Yeah.
wonder, you know.
I love that thought. I mean, I think that with Evan Peters' character in Mayor of Easttown, we never got this kind of aside, the camera shifts and the character kind of darkens the same way that we've had with Grasso in this series, where we've seen another side where he's got a history, something else has happened. We didn't really get too much of his history until he arguably died on that episode. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Mayor of Easttown, or Evan Peters' character dies, my bad. But you should go watch it anyways because it's a really good series.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's pay a couple tiny bills and then we'll jump into so many more questions. If you're all enjoying this, we love that you're enjoying Unbinged with us. There's so many shows that we're currently covering and so many more that we're planning on covering. Currently, the team is covering Peacemaker. Gen V, we are covering Task. We've also got Landman, It, Welcome to Derry coming up, Stranger Things, Fallout, so many more things to cover. So make sure that you have liked and subscribed so you don't miss a single episode. And we like to create a sense of community here. So, guys, we want to hear your reviews. And the best part is if you put those reviews in Apple Podcasts, you have the chance to win an amazing Amazon gift card from us, as well as leave those reviews and those theories. All right, guys, we talked a little bit about Robbie's master plan in terms of we see it unfold again before the opening credits roll. Robbie's master plan was to go and meet the Dark Hearts, have a major shootout, throw a bag of nothing into the river to make them think they all lost their drugs. But it turns out he ended up going and making a deal with a crackhead, as you so eloquently put earlier, Jagger. So I'll kick it to you first on this one since you made that point. Um, I did not see that coming with Robbie working with Shelley, considering her significant other messed things up for them earlier. That was kind of a shock for me, but Maeve ends up walking away with the money. Jag, this was out of left field. How do you feel?
I'm actually wondering if he made a deal with the Dominicans and then the crackhead was involved. Like, to me, that's such a plot hole. I'm like, buddy, do you know anything about addiction? Like, even if she's clean, there is no way she's like, those kids really need to eat. If anything, she would give him like $100, be like, here's some groceries, and here's the rest of my food stamps card, and then she's gonna go off. I don't believe that point, but I will give him credit that he thought things through, at least to where he thought things through more than he has. Like, this is the first time I've seen Robbie actually try to think ahead. I won't say that he was 2 steps ahead. He was at least 1 step ahead, because if anything, I think this is just going to set up a bigger problem where next episode, it's not just about Tom Brandis and the task force team going and trying to find Grasso, which actually on the Kath thing, like, I don't mean to like keep putting on this, where he could be the fall guy. He seems like the guy could be easily set up to where they can keep the wheels turning and give the FBI something. But I genuinely think that a lot of this episode is Maeve going to be getting away, just taking the money and the kids, getting up and trying to leave, or them trying to save Maeve and the kids and protect them? Because, like, obviously, if you find that there's no drugs, and where's the first place you're going to look? Where's the first place you're going to look for money? Especially if Tom's dead. He almost had a good plan. Let's put it that way. It's like almost.
So close it so far. Cough,
Yeah.
how do you feel about Robbie's plan?
Yeah. I was genuinely surprised when Shelley showed up with a bag of cash, and I was like, oh, he actually did tried something. But again, having your entire plan hinge upon trusting other people who have already shown that they can't be trusted because they tried to rob you once already just seems baffling to me. So I'm glad it worked out. I'm very happy because I want Maeve and the kids, Harper and Wyatt, to have a great life moving forward, especially now that they don't have a dad. We don't know where the mom is. She just got up and fucked off somewhere before the first episode. She's still alive, as far as we know. So when the knock came on the door, I was like, oh, it's the mom. She heard what happened. She came back. But instead, it was a bag full of cash. So I really do hope Maeve does the smart thing and just gets out, because this entire series she has shown that she is the smart one in the family and that she actually thinks things through and at least thinks of the consequences for the most part. Obviously, you put her in a situation with a bunch of FBI agents and you have a kidnapped kid in the back seat. She improv pretty well. So I really, really, really hope that she just takes that bag and gets out and gets as far away from Delco County as possible and starts a new life. I hear, California's pretty nice. Why not try there? So I really want her to make it. So I'm glad that it worked out so far for Robbie. But again, the man is a beautiful idiot. And I'm glad that God loves idiots, because he really, really could have gotten fucked by Shelley if at the end of the day, because she could have kept all of it and then the kids would have nothing.
No.
Yeah. No, completely.
I'm hoping that they address that, because, like, again, it's just like, man, I wouldn't trust. I don't trust a crackhead with my lighter. Like, they're gonna steal that shit, dude. Like, there's no way. I'm like, hey, man, could you bring this bag of cash to my kids? It's just not gonna happen. I will say though, what do you guys think is the best thing for her to do? Like, should she immediately, like, I would go to Tom right away. Tom is safe. I feel like I love the way that Tom handled everything with, like, I'm assuming that was a prosecutor or something in there, where he's just like, shut the fuck up, dude. Like, obviously she didn't want any of this to happen. She's not trying to do crime and stuff like that. Let's just get this done. Say what you got to say to make it work and get her out. But, like,
even smarter.
Do you just take the money?
Tom, sorry, I just want to point this out. Tom didn't just try to appeal to the prosecutor's feelings. He was like, try to get a conviction out of this, and that's what really drove it home for the prosecutor. She's like, you're right, I'm not going to be able to convict. So that to me just shows that Tom, again, he knows how to read people because of his background as a priest, and so he's able to appeal to whatever side he needs to. Like when he's talking to Robbie last episode, he knew that Robbie was a lost soul. So how did he come to him? He's like, yeah, you remind me of this bird, and gets Robbie kind of thinking along those terms. So again, just goes to show that Tom, we have not given him enough credit in this show for how good he is with other people, and being able to go into a situation and get what he needs to out of the situation by appealing to their humanity, or in this case, appealing to their vanity, because a lot of prosecutors are very, very proud of their conviction rate. And if it goes down a little bit, they get real upset. So I thought that was brilliant writing. Sorry, Jack, didn't mean to cut you off.
Which is nuts. Which is nuts. Like to hear. Like I don't want to. I will rant about it. That like law shouldn't be down to statistics like you're a fucking fantasy football team. But I do think that like,
yes,
again, like
agreed.
the question I had is like, do you go to the police or do you just run? Like where are you safer? Because like my gut feeling is just take off. Don't go to California, cough. That's too busy. You need to go to a place like Arkansas, Oklahoma, where no one's gonna find you. Like you need, like I hate to say you need to go to one shithole to another, but maybe go to a shithole with some money so you don't have to like be involved with the riffraff as like the rich old, like if I'm like a rich old white guy from like the 1950s or something like that, do that. But like, I want to say just go to the police, but they might just take the money at that point because it's drug money. It just, I do feel like Robbie tried to put her in a better situation, but it's still a dangerous situation. It's not quite out of the frying pan and into the fire, but it's out of the frying pan and into some coals, maybe, like not, like it's still a little hot.
No, I think that's a really good point and call out, and kind of leads me into this next question, because I'm starting to get the feeling you guys don't watch after the credits run. We did get a clip of the finale and what we can expect what's coming, which I think is going to be really, really interesting. I don't know about for you guys. Last episode, we ended on a cut with everyone pointing guns at each other. We didn't know who was going to come out alive. And then we got all those answers this episode. But what we got from this one, to stack it up, I think, to make the stakes even higher going into the finale, is now not only has Robbie passed trying to complete his master plan, Tom has a level of coming back to himself, becoming more of the good agent that he really is. And to all of your points, believing in himself again, that he can solve this, and now is vindicated with needing to solve this, for Lizie, the fact that she is passed as a result of everything going to shit. We have all this going into the fact that now we know that both Perry and Jason know that they don't have the drugs. They maybe don't know if they were sold, but they know that Robbie had them. So where are they going to go? Perry knows Maeve. He knows where her house is. They're immediately going there. Whether or not both Perry and Jason go together to go after Maeve, because it seems like Jason's much more on it in terms of getting things and setting them right, going back to the way things were. He's still very upset that they can't find Aaron. It's going to be Perry and Jason going after Maeve to see if she has the drugs or if she has the money. My question is, it looks like from that little clip, there's going to be another standoff. Does Maeve end up surviving this? Because I don't think she's out of the woods. Cough, I'll kick it to you first.
God, I want her to survive. Knowing Jason's body count right now, right? He has killed her father, her uncle, and her uncle's and father's like best friend. I hope that Maeve does not become a part of that body count, or one of the kids does not become a part of that. But there's a part of me that's like, Jason is an unrelenting killer, so he might do something horrific. I really hope instead what we get is that somehow Perry slips up, and somehow Jason finds out that Aaron was killed by Perry, and they off each other, and that way they never get the chance to get to Maeve, or they never get the chance to hurt Maeve. So I really hope that we get a more poetic ending where they kill each other. And I think it may have been set up, this scene or this episode, with the scene between Grasso and his captain, where the captain's like, you gotta forget her, man, like forget her and like move on. And Grasso has that little mini crash out, and then the captain's able to like get cold water on him and like, remember, like, it's bigger than you. So I wonder if we're gonna get a scene like that where Jason's crashing out about Aaron, Perry's gonna be like, you gotta move on, like we'll figure it out eventually, or says something alluding to the fact that Jason picks up on that Aaron is dead. And then Jason, being who he is, doesn't stop and calm down, he just attacks. And maybe then we get that final clash between mentor mentee, they kill each other, and everybody else is safe from their collateral damage. And that might be a little bit too much wishful thinking on my end, but I think that might be a very poetic way to end that storyline.
I like that. Jagger, how about you in terms of how this ends up panning out? Do you see Maeve being able to get out of this?
Yeah. Just like it, and I know everything. I wouldn't say it's against her. I think this is the first time where the odds are even remotely even for her, because like before everything was just stacked against them. You've got Sam in there, Robbie and Cliff have a lot of heat on them. Now you have money, you have a little bit of leverage. I this She's got more than she's ever had in her life, quite literally. So if there's anyone I'm going to bet on, like Coffee already said it, she's a smart one. I'm going to bet on Maeve 10 times out of 10 that she's going to work. She's going to figure it out. You know, she's a smart cookie, and hopefully they don't take 3 people from us, you know, like they could in this show, but I hope not.
They have every potential to, because I mean, like we said, we've seen Mayor of Easttown. As soon as you fall in love with a character, you know that you can't hope that they're going to survive it. But hopefully Maeve does. I want to get to this last part before we wrap up on everything, because again, it feels like everything is stacking up for this really action-packed finale. And we have Tom making the decision to bring Sam home because he saw the facility that he was being housed at, and that it was barely a step above a prison. And he made the decision, as he was telling his daughters, that he brought him home because he was looking at him and thinking, if his wife was there, she would bring this boy home. All of that to say, how do you feel, Jagger, I'll go to you first on this one. How do you feel this is stacking up for us to go into this hearing and this trial where we're about to see the sentencing for Tom's son, Ethan? We are aware now that Emily and Sarah are on decent terms. You know, Sarah's going through it with her husband and Emily's being there to support her. But now they watch their father bring in another boy. He brings in Sam and is trying to do the right thing by him. How do you feel this is going to play into Tom's character as he goes into this hearing?
I think this is all set up so we get closure for Tom, in the sense where we kind of forget that Tom was using Grasso as a confessional as well, where he finally said, I have not seen my son in 14 months. And he's like, I don't,
Solid.
and he admitted that it just felt wrong. And then when they actually, maybe they have given us the time, I didn't realize it was that fucking long, man. Like I didn't realize it was like well over a year at that point, where at least not even seeing him and saying something to give him closure, whether it's like, I can't forgive you or I do forgive you and we can move past it. Not giving his son that closure, I think, is wrong. And he knows that. So I hope that he takes what he learned about Sam, because like he yelled, he's like, all I thought about is what your mother would do. And then seeing that place where he was at, all she would think of is like, we need to take that boy home. And I hope that, knowing what I've gathered from his wife, I think his wife would forgive her son for where he was at. Even though what Sarah said about how bad her mentally, like her mom was taking care of him, there's just no way that person would just be that unforgiving. And I hope the show closes out with that little bit of goodness, you know, where it even isn't quite necessarily directly to the plot, but having a little bit of good closure would be nice, you know.
It would be nice to get a tiny bit of closure. Koff, how about you in terms of
Oh,
how this is
yeah.
set up going into the sentencing for Tom?
Definitely. So one thing I remember between Tom and Grasso at one point was him saying, he has all this anger towards his son, and he didn't have a place to put that. He didn't know how to process it because he's supposed to love his son, so I think having Grasso as a target now for his rage and his anger is going to help him process his feelings for his son and realize, like, yes, what my son did was horrible, but it was almost outside of his control. So he's going to be able to have a place to put his anger towards Grasso and his son and focus that and be able to work through it. So like you said, Jack, hopefully we get a little bit of like hope. So when he does go to the sentencing, at least he gets a moment with his son where he can forgive him. And having Sam there to process, like, sometimes these kids are lost and all they need is someone to show them that there's a way forward. So I'm looking forward to seeing that kind of growth from him as a character. And I think having, like I said, a target for his anger is going to be so therapeutic for him that we're going to see him come through this entire situation. If he survives, if there is some sort of showdown with Grasso, that we're going to see his character end in a much better place than where he was at the beginning of the season, especially now that Emily has been able to find her backbone and be like, hey, I know you're getting drunk every night out of that Phillies Cup. And then he pulls out the lemonade. It's like, fine. So I think we're finally getting that character growth from Tom on a personal level, not just a professional level.
Yeah, that was a very interesting moment of, to your call out of the personal growth of like, fine, I'm not going to be drinking. It's going to be lemonade, obviously. And it hasn't been alcohol this whole time. Trying to pull the wool over her eyes. So many loose ends to tie up for this finale. Not only do we get the standoff between Perry and Jason, will Maeve be able to get Robbie's kids out and save them so that way, they all just don't fall victim to Jason and his wrath? Will Tom be able to get the closure that he so desperately needs with his son? I want to go just around really quickly to each of us and say, what's one thing, because there's so many things, what's one thing that you really need to see happen to feel good about the finale? Jagger, I'll go to you first. What do you need to walk away from this show with?
I need to walk away with resolution with Maeve. That's it. Like that. I need, this is a tough question. Emotionally, I need Maeve to survive, but I don't need her to survive for this to be a good finale. It just needs to be resolved and resolved cleanly. The last thing I want is just like an Inception top of like, did Maeve make it out with the kids? No, you need to tell me if these kids survived or not. We don't fuck around with children,
Very fair. Cough, what do you need?
Yeah. I need Jason 6 feet under. Like he is gone on long enough messing not only with the Pendergrass family, but like the community at large. Just, I need Jason, even if he somehow survives, if there is a showdown between him and Perry, he survives. I need Vincent to come down from Mother Club and be like, you've been terminated. Bang, right to the back of the head. Like, they've already telegraphed that Jason's not long for the organization. I just need to see it actually happen.
Actually, we forgot to talk about this. Jason continues to fuck up, dog. Like the Dark Hearts could have gotten out of there with zero fucking problems. Let's put it that way. The police wouldn't even known they would have been there. Yep. He literally is like, stop, don't do anything. And the motherfucker had to pop one in front of, like, what were his thoughts? What were his thoughts? Like, who is dumber, Robbie or Jason? They're basically none. Yeah, they're two sides of the same coin, except one is a bad person and one is a good person. Like Robbie doesn't think things through, but he doesn't. He's not trying to do harm intentionally. But Jason is like legitimately a shithead with a gun. Like a shithead with a gun the entire time. It's fucking bonkers. If I was Perry, I would have killed him in the crossfire and hoped that it happened. Yeah, like I'm like, I don't know what, it's a straight bullet, but I killed the problem.
What if that was Jason's plan? He was trying to get Perry killed in a firefight because he thinks that if Perry's out, then he's safe because now there's chaos above him. So I wonder if that was his warped, like, if Perry dies, I'm safe somehow. Because it was so strange that he would just pop up and start like shooting at Robbie when there was no reason to. So there's got like,
Yeah.
yes, Jason's an idiot, but I almost wonder if there was some sort of like dumbass plan at play in his mind.
It's not nothing, man. Like I don't
No.
think you're wrong, but it was a really stupid ass idea because like Jason's like, I'll kill Perry, then I'll be boss. Like, no, Perry's the one thing keeping you alive, buddy.
Yeah. I actually think that it's interesting to call this out. I think that not that I understand what Jason's thinking, but clearly all of his decisions have been completely emotionally based.
Yes.
And I think his decision to go ahead and just start firing was he has been wronged by Robbie this entire season and for a very long time in terms of him getting the better of these houses and stealing from them. I feel like it was an ego-driven decision to want to go after him in the moment where you finally have a face to the name of who's been your problem for this long. And I think that Jason's ego would not allow him to leave that situation without confronting him, without trying to kill him, because he is so small. He has so little. And it's the one thing that would be in his control to try to fix his problem, because it is all his problem in terms of everything that's been going wrong. He's caused all this chaos from the very beginning, where he killed Maeve's dad and Robbie's brother. When he made that decision, everything has gone wrong since then. The Sergeant of Arms called it out, saying nothing's been right since that. And Jason's aware that he's done nothing but brought problems to himself and to the Dark Hearts since he's made that decision. And I think him wanting to shoot Robbie in that moment was, this can finally tie a knot on all of my problems. This will solve my problems if I can just off Robbie in this moment. And I think that's probably where he was coming from. But again, it didn't solve his problems. And we've got that taking us into the finale. And that's going to be something to solve. For myself, what I really want to happen is I want Perry to have to face down the problems that he allowed Jason to have. So I also agree, I need Jason 6 feet under, but I really want Perry locked up and having to sit across from Tom and have that back and forth 101 after they beat the crap out of each other in that cabin. I want Tom to have the upper hand on Perry and to be tying everything up around his name and sending him away for all of this. So I do agree. I need Jason dead, but I need Perry to have to, basically face up for all of Jason's problems and be the one that ends up going to jail.
Yeah, I went the positive route. Surprisingly, you guys went dark, and I love it. I'm not even judging you. That's very appropriate.
I think that it's just been so long of watching so many people fuck around. We need them to find out. That's where I'm at. I just need them to find out the consequences of their actions, and I need them to be held accountable. So sorry, not sunshine today.
We believe in accountability.
Sweet bunch.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, we do. All right, guys. I think that will do for us for the second to last episode of Task. Next week we've got the finale, and then we've got it. Welcome to Derry, guys. It's been so much fun. Again, make sure you like and subscribe, and you will join us for the finale next week to finish off Task. Have a good one.